The road to Silent Hill is long, quiet, and filled with dread. Each step James takes crunches underneath him as his foot presses against the gravel. It's overbearingly loud, filling the still air with the dissonant sound of a single pair of footsteps. Alone, isolated, save for the occasional unworldly screech that pierces the still air, reminding you this isn't what it seems. It's uncomfortable, overwhelming, and unnatural. It perfectly introduces players to Silent Hill 2 and what waits for them beyond the fog. By the time you've run this gravel track for a long time, taking in the uncomfortable ambience of the piercing footsteps, you're met with an encounter, and to contrast what came before, a nauseating audio, piercing parts of the mind you forgot existed. Then, just as fast as it came, silence again. In the opening minutes of Silent Hill 2, after the establishing diner sequence which explains James coming to Silent Hill, we're treated to what I like to call the walking scene. It is a microcosm of all the emotions you can feel at any given moment through the next 8 or so hours exploring the dense fog, monsters, and psychological horrors found throughout. The slow footsteps serve as a build-up of tension. The release comes from encountering an otherworldly sound, then finally silence, giving time to sit and dwell before heading out to experience it all over again. Silent Hill 2 is a masterclass of game design in basically every respect imaginable. It is widely regarded as one of, if not the best, horror game of all time, and with good reason. It's rare for a game to make me feel on edge. When it comes to horror, the tension of unease lasts until my first death in the game. After, I know the worst of what can happen, so the game stops being scary, or at least tense for me. Silent Hill 2 managed to circumvent this by having an original foundation from which everything else was built out from. Its atmosphere is what makes Silent Hill 2 so memorable to everyone who has played it. Everything else branches out from this center, and at its core is a genius approach to sound design. When it comes to video games, sound design is one of the most important aspects of the final product, and also happens to be one of the least talked about. I'm not talking about soundtracking or scoring, that's just one piece of the whole. I want to discuss the tactile use of audio that can really help elevate a game from surface level enjoyable to a truly immersive experience just through the simple use of cues, sound, and ambience. For those of you that don't know, which I'm going to assume is most of you watching right now, I have a professional background in audio engineering, so if there is one subject I cover on this channel that I actually have some idea of what I'm talking about, it's this one. That's not me exclaiming what I have to say is the only thing that's absolute truth. I can talk about this a lot more confidently. Audio relates back to every aspect of a game. When you execute an action, sit still in one specific location, or browse a menu, all of these require a good sound to get the full effect. If part of the sound feels wrong, or is of a lower level of quality, even if you don't know why, it will decrease the overall experience. So the push for better audio in games has become ever increasing as the race for bigger exploration of worlds, stories, and themes has grown ever more important over the years. Before taking a dive into Silent Hill, I want to touch on what makes sound design so crucial. When it comes to what is a more important factor, audio or video, audio will, in most cases, win out. Our brains respond more negatively to bad audio than they do bad visuals on screen. This is why some of the best advice you can give someone starting out on YouTube is to focus on your audio quality first and video second. I am way more likely to stop playing a game if there's issues with audio cutting out or something is just generally unpleasant to listen to, and not in the cool purposeful way, than I am to quit a game that drops frames. I mean, just look at something like Dark Souls or Skyrim. Both have fantastic audio departments, but are often criticized for their visual performance or bugs, yet are beloved regardless. There's a lot of games out there that have an absolutely masterful application of all the tenets of sound design, but I think the one genre where it really shines through the most is horror. Horror wants to get under a player's skin and in their head, with the right use of audio or lack thereof in some cases. An image on screen may not appear scary by itself unless paired with the right kind of tension-building music or sound effects or some combination of the two. Games like PT and Visage excel with audio designs that set a deep-seated unease in players and use that to elevate a sense of tense anxiety in players, while games like Bloodborne use viscerality to create a soundscape that is grotesque to match visual aesthetics of hunting beasts in the night. There is no one right way to approach a game's audio design. Like mechanics and art style, it depends on the goal of your game, so building an atmosphere around what kind of experience you want your players to go through is key. There has been a lot of innovation and bending of ideas to push the boundaries of audio in recent years. Hellblade used binaural audio, utilizing a technology seen in games before in a meaningful and effective way. Alien Isolation uses lo-fi 80s sounds to complement its source material and visual aesthetic. Dark Souls, with its purposeful lack of music, letting the ambience of the world tell the stories. But Silent Hill 2 felt like an ushering in of a new era, one we're still seeing to this day. All roads eventually lead to Silent Hill. Horror can be scary for many, many different reasons. Sometimes it uses the familiarity of everyday places and sounds to evoke unease in us. The sound of a creaky door you didn't open cutting through silence in a house thought to be empty is terrifying because you know what that sounds like and what it implies. You're not actually alone. The monster could be unfamiliar, but the environment it's chasing you in isn't. So hearing sounds you hear every day elevates anxiety. It's a way to get into your head quickly. 90s and early 2000s, things started to change. There were two franchises leading the charge of horror games in the mainstream gaming space: Capcom's Resident Evil and Konami's Silent Hill. Resident Evil takes a more traditional approach, using conventional audio designs of objects found around a house, or that a tactical police force might use, such as guns, loud doors, heavy footsteps, and ladders to try and catch players off guards in a house full of zombies. This combination of slow, methodical action with firearms and a more typical approach to audio design has left Resident Evil feeling more like an action game with elements of horror than something truly terrifying itself. This isn't to disparage Resident Evil, I love that franchise, but it feels a lot safer and closer to home than what series composer and sound designer Akira Yamaoka set out to achieve with Silent Hill. On the Silent Hill 2 DVD behind-the-scenes commentary, Yamaoka talks about his process of creating the otherworldly sounds of the fog-covered town. Resident Evil sounds are formal. I would say we are used to hearing them, whereas for Silent Hill 2, I tried to create something that would surprise you, something that would challenge your imagination, as if the sounds were going under your skin. What I mean by that is to create a physical reaction for the game player, such as a feeling of apprehension and unease. One of my favorite audio design decisions in Silent Hill 2 is the radio. It's a way to diegetically inform players that danger is close by, and the louder the radio static is, the closer the monsters are. Since the game is played with a fixed camera, each screen offers a different, mostly static perspective. When you're outside, you can swing the camera behind James, but it only provides a limited view of your surroundings, so audio is your best friend. The radio made me wonder how much of the game's audio design is diegetic. Given the psychological themes presented, every screech, every drone of notes could be something that comes from within the mind of James, or something disconnected from the game specifically for players' own atmospheric ambience. Silent Hill is a series about exploring and confronting the demons the characters carry with them. The town of Silent Hill is a manifestation of trauma, ranging from Eddie's struggles with those who bullied him, Angela's abuse at the hands of her family, and James's coming to terms with his wife's tragic death. These traumas are faced in other worlds, which embody these demons, ranging from icy freezes, walls covered in flesh, or having hospital beds respectively. Having physical representations of our psychological states is a hard thing to convey, but this is where the audio comes in. It's like nothing we've heard before, mixed in with some familiar sounds. The first time we meet the most iconic character in the franchise, Pyramid Head, James is walking down the hallway of a seemingly long time since abandoned apartment complex. Again, we're greeted with echoing footsteps, and as we get closer, radio static kicks in. It's familiar, but it's got undertones of the music humming, It's a drone, but not one that causes panic. It just sets the tone that this character is important and will become a threat as they stare at James through the locked bars of an apartment complex hallway. Shortly after, we are formally introduced to Pyramid Head. They are in a sexually compromising position with two other creatures. It's disgusting and represents the worst of humanity. There is no radio static, as there is no present dangers to James at this particular moment. But the audio is like nothing that I've ever heard before. It's near impossible to describe. It's pulsating. It reverberates through every corner of your mind as you try to untangle what exactly James has stumbled upon. It's revolting, but that's the point. There is no good here. And if Yamaoka had used something more formal, as he said, the weight of James's psychological state deteriorating wouldn't be properly represented. There's a viscerality within the inhumane noises in this scene that just elevate the anxiety of confronting your demons in a way that I hadn't seen before and haven't really seen since. Another key element to creating soundscapes that sits Silent Hill 2 above its contemporaries is the use of silence. Silence is a tricky thing to use in audio. If I'm watching a video but have it on another screen and there's silence, I assume my internet has died and it takes me out of concentrating on what's being presented. Silence can make or break an experience with a game. Too much and it might feel like something has bugged. Too little and the soundscape can feel overwhelming, forcing players to take a break to find their own reprieve. Silent Hill is an aptly named series because, well, it masterfully uses silence to its advantages. When you walk that road to Silent Hill, it's deadly quiet. Only James's footsteps will pierce the stillness in the air. But it's unnerving to stand still, so you're forced into the dissonance of footsteps. Silence is being used as a tool to create even more tension. Usually quiet moments are used to give players a breather, some time to gather themselves again. But in Silent Hill 2, it's yet another tool of tension, and that's what adds to Yamaoka's toolkit of sound design. He cleverly interweaves different moments of unease through audio to never keep things the same. At any one point, a different technique will be used, from the creaking static of the radio, heavy distortions of the mundane, the unworldly sounds of manifestations of demons, and the silence between these moments. Audio is important, and I've spent a lot of my adult life trying to understand why and how that is. The many applications, especially within games, figuring out the differences between what works and what doesn't. As with all things within games, sound design is just another aspect that relies on the strength of the rest of your game working in tandem to create a truly special experience. As audio gets more recognition and good sound systems from speakers to headphones become more readily accessible on a consumer level, the bar is raised higher and higher. There are too many games to name that are pushing the boundaries of aural experience, but it all started with how unconventional and boundary pushing Akira Yamaoka was with Silent Hill 2. I didn't understand these ideas when I played Silent Hill 2 as a kid. It was just a creepy game that scared the shit out of me, and as I've grown up, my appreciation for sound and Silent Hill 2 has grown even more. I don't know when we will see innovation in sound design like this again, and that's okay. The road to Silent Hill will always be the most memorable and tense way to introduce a game, and as long as modern games remember it, maybe we'll find ourselves walking down that gravel path again someday soon.